So I was recently reflecting on peak experiences versus mundane, boring, everyday human experiences in relation to creating internal capacity and creating trust between our brains and our bodies. So for me on my journey, early on my journey, I used to chase a lot of peak experiences in my life. So for example, I did take a lot of mushrooms on my journey earlier on, and honestly, I did not have the the awareness that I do have right now. Um, but I will say this, taking those mushrooms early on my journey really gave me a lot of insight on the things that I wasn't conscious of. So I do appreciate the mushrooms in my journey and me taking mushrooms on my journey. But looking back at that version of myself, something I always tell myself is to give myself grace. Um, I said to realize probably like a few months ago that the real shift or the real how to create real internal capacity is to really focus on the mundane, boring, everyday experiences. Now, the peak experiences are great, but you don't really get, it's the little things that make the biggest impact, right? So, for example, when I mean everyday mundane experiences, like for example, in my life, when I'm washing dishes and I feel this tightness in my chest, because now I'm more aware of, the tightness in my chest, I simply pause what I'm doing for a few seconds and just pay attention to that raw emotions for a few seconds and carry on what I'm doing, right? Or when I'm scrolling on social media and I feel tightness in my chest, as opposed to ignoring what I'm feeling in the moment, I just allow my body to process that raw emotions for a few seconds. And just those everyday mundane moments, at least in my life, I've seen that that's how you build internal capacity. Those peak moments are great, but they don't the work is in integrating those parts of ourselves. And I have seen, instead of approaching our lives with trying to fix or trying to look for peak moment, I have seen that the boring mundane moments is where the internal capacity, the intelligence of the nervous system starts to take over. So what really helps me with my brain is the way, at least I have seen my life, is when I used to chase a lot of peak moments. It was like a roller coaster. Like I would have like really high peak moments, and I will have like really low, I mean really low dark moment. But now the more I keep focusing on, mundane, boring, everyday human moments, my human experience has changed from that roller coaster, high low, to, when the EKG, the heartbeat, it's now it's not so high, it's not so low, it's just right in the middle, right? Because I've started to understand the power of focusing on mundane, boring human moment. That's how your nervous system intelligence takes over. It is slow, I would say this. It's slow, but it is boring. But consistency is the name of this game. It's not about perfection, it's about being human, giving yourself grace. But I just thought just reflecting on early on in my journey where I used to chase a lot of peak moment, and I realized that wasn't sustainable, because at that point I didn't even have capacity to integrate those peak moments that I was experiencing. And I realized that the true experience of being a human is the boring, mundane moments. That's how integration happens. That's how capacity happens intelligently with your nervous system.